A tale of dark powers and secret treachery, this story stands out for the subtlety of its horror. The original accounts never specify the exact time period, but internal references indicate the early part of the 19th century, probably the 1840s. Ghostly manifestations have been taking place ever since in the area of a ghastly event. The setting takes place near Seal Cove, on the western side of Mount Desert Island overlooking Blue Hill Bay. The story begins in the lingering light of a summer evening. A woman we'll call Hannah was out walking with her children near Seal Cove. In the harbor, they saw a mysterious ship silhouetted against the sunset, and they stopped to speculate on the ship's origin and contents. Hannah and her children were not long in talking before one of them noticed a small skiff that had set off from the ship with a party of people. The little boat was heading for the most isolated and unsettled part of Seal Cove. Desiring a better vantage point, Hannah led her children to the nearby ledges of Butler's Hill, located about 3/4 of a mile up the coast from the head of Seal Cove. In a grove of spruces now occupied by the site of a modern house, the woman and children watched unseen as the strange drama unfolded. Growing closer and closer in the dwindling light, the small boat finally landed near the base of Butler's Hill, out on one of the small rocky outcrops surrounded by little white dunes of crushed clamshells. A party of 8 men and a woman came ashore carrying shovels and a large object. They had clearly agreed on their destination because all the participants acted with wordless understanding. Breathlessly, Hannah and her children watched as the group passed directly below. The men were dressed as sailors, and the large object they carried looked exactly like a treasure chest. Even more fascinating, however, was the woman who walked with them. She was young and beautiful, with dark hair piled high on her head and hanging around her face in long, snaky coils. She was dressed like a noblewoman, in a sumptuous gown of stiff silk that trailed on the ground and whispered as she passed. The mysterious group walked the beach for a short distance, past Butler's Hill until they came to the lowest area, where 2 small streams trickle into the sea. Veering into the woods, the woman and 8 sailors soon disappeared completely from view of Hannah and her children. Something momentous, something awful was taking place, for a thick feeling of danger and dark misgiving settled in like the growing dusk. The sense of impending doom prevented the mother and children from following the procession to see where it would bury the large treasure chest. Conflicting emotions no doubt gripped them, the desire for instant wealth urging them to sneak into the woods, and the instinct of self-preservation keeping them hidden at a safe distance. As they deliberated in hushed tones, Hannah and her children kept watch over the dark shoreline. Although it was getting late, Hannah didn't dare take her family home for fear of encountering the ship's party on its return. Her caution paid off because she later noticed shadowy figures emerging from the woods and heading back down the beach. At first, it was difficult to see them through the twilight, but as the group passed the base of Butler's Hill, Hannah had no trouble making out the shapes. 7 sailors walked directly below, heading back to the small boat anchored on the shore. The men moved quickly, no longer encumbered by the heavy chest, and they hastily assembled in their boat and cast off for the ship, which had nearly dissolved into the darkness. There was no sign of the 8th sailor or the young noblewoman. From the woods that swallowed up the woman and sailor, only ominous silence prevailed. No sounds or signs that anyone had passed that way. Murder hung in the air, and, frightened, Hannah and her children made the difficult trek back home, stumbling in the dark along the rocky shore and doused by ocean water as they stepped accidentally into tidal pools. Long before they got home, the mysterious ship had pulled anchor and quietly departed, for the foreign vessel was long gone by the first light of morning. The story quickly passed the rounds of Seal Cove about the sailors who buried treasure on the island and killed a man and a woman to guard it. Their deaths had been terrible acts of betrayal involving a strangling cord that cut off any cry for help and a dagger to the heart. Into the hastily dug pit that contained the treasure chest, the 7 sailors lowered the bloody corpses of the sailor and the woman, binding their spirits to the place. The treacherous sailors then filled the gravesite with rocks and sod, scattering moss and leaves to hide the spot. A fierce summer storm further camouflaged the site. Although people searched the area after hearing Hannah's tale, no one ever discovered the location. The murderous sailors never lived long enough to return and claim their hidden fortune. Perhaps an early death was the price of their crime. For nearly 200 years, the spirit of the murdered noblewoman has haunted the coastal wilds of Seal Cove. No one knows why only her soul remains out there, yet certain features stand out in the original account. The woman's death represented the darkest twist of fate, for she had walked into a trap having all the advantages the world can offer. Her youth, beauty, and social station all stood at the brink of unimaginable riches. Only at the moment of death did she learn the price of this fortune. Unable to come to terms with her bitter end, she must have died rooted to the very spot of her undoing. Since then, dozens of people have experienced the ghost at that particular low spot near Butler's Hill, where two gloomy brooks flow into the sea. In the vicinity of the second stream lies the territory of the ghost. Through this dismal spot, the strange phantom moves in a disturbing fashion. The ghost takes the form of a peculiar sound and sensation. Many people have heard the swish of a silken gown as the ghost approaches. Now a lonely dirt road crosses both the bubbling stream and a small swampy hollow of birch and alder trees growing in the shadows of Butler's Hill. In this remote location, a perpetual ocean breeze keeps the leaves in constant motion, creating a rustling sound much like crinkling silk. Sometimes the water, trickling over moss-eaten stones, makes a similar sound. Truly unsettling is the great number of snakes that congregate in this particular lowland. The slithering of these reptiles among the grass and fallen leaves only adds to the strange whispering in the haunted glen. While the sounds of water, leaves, and snakes certainly lend themselves to the legend of a creeping specter, these noises cannot explain the paranormal intensity of the site. Interspersed between the noises of the natural environment comes the sound of something else, the slow approaching of the phantom. Difficult to perceive at first, the ghost's movements seem to come from far away. Then, unexpectedly, you will hear with perfect clarity the swish of a silk dress trailing on the forest floor. Looking around, you'll see nothing. Nonetheless, the ghost seems suddenly much closer. When the sound returns, the rustling comes from a different direction, but always closer. In this way, the ghost creeps in a roundabout manner. With one or two steps followed by a stop, the specter keeps closing in. While the ghost's motives remain baffling, its approach certainly resembles a predator stalking its prey. As the specter circles in, the creeping becomes intolerable. With darkening intensity, the phantom inspires a cold dread. Then, when the silken gown rustles close by, you will know the dead woman is standing directly behind you. You must flee the haunted glen before the ghost touches you. A sense of danger guides you, prompted by a sudden insight. The ghost guards a treasure, and the only way to that fortune is through death itself. Hey guys, Reaper here. I just wanted to thank you all for either watching or listening, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. This story was brought to you from Ghosts of Acadia, written by Marcus Labrizzi and published by Down East Books. I wanted to give both of them a huge thank you and a huge shout out for letting me bring this book to you guys, whether it's in audio form on Spotify or in video form on YouTube. If you want to check out the book for yourself, I will leave a link down below in the description in both Spotify and on YouTube, so you can go check out the book for yourself and support the original author and original publisher. New story coming out tomorrow night. And until then, remember, sleep well, my friends.